Welcome back to the third part of our series on matplotlib. But before that, just a quick recap of what we did in previous part. In the previous part, we looked at how we can plot multiple plots in the same figure window using the subplots function. Then we talked about figures and axis objects and what role do they play in plotting these results. Then we saw what are the different methods that we can use to explicitly create these objects to handle multiple figures at the same time. Then at the end, we plotted a final plot which looked something like this. And we did that by explicitly creating our figure and multiple axis objects. Alright, and at the end, we just saved our figure. Now from this part onwards, we'll move ahead to see what are the different types of plots that you can plot in matplotlib. And just to begin with, I would like to show you a summary or a broad overview of different types of plots that are available. So this is the official documentation of matplotlib. And you can see there are variety of plots that you can plot. For example, we already saw how we can plot a line plot in the previous part. Then there are scatter plots, bar charts, fill between charts. Then for statistical distributions, we have histograms, box plots, error bars, pie charts, and so on. If you just scroll, there is a complete huge list for these plots. But in this series, I'll try to cover few of the important plots that we use for any data analysis. So in this part, we'll start with the bar chart. So let's just start with that. So a bar chart is simply a plot where you have bars instead of points. And again, you will have to provide the x and y values here as well, where the y values will represent the height of the bars and not the points. And when do we use bar charts? So we can use bar charts whenever we have a data related to some categories and we want to show some data related to those categories. Okay. For example, if I'm doing a job and I wanted to show my savings for each month in a particular year. Now these 12 months will be represented by 12 categories and those height of the bars will represent my savings. So that's one example. We'll also see another example, and for that I would like to switch to my coding environment. So I'll be doing everything in the Google Colab environment. And so let's just start with our coding part. Okay. So to begin with, we need to import our necessary libraries. So I'll be using Panda. I'll be using NumPy libraries. And the most important of all, we have to import the pyplot module from the matplotlib library. Okay. So our libraries are imported. Regarding the data, we will not be defining any data, but we'll be importing the data from an external CSV file. So for that, I have a CSV file already created, which is the salesdata.csv. And I'll provide this file already in the video description. You can just follow the link to download this file. And you can also work along with me to learn in a better way. Okay. So this is the file that we have, and I would like to import it using the .read CSV method from our pandas. So I just need to provide the name of the file and it will import my data. Okay. Now I would like to show you some of the values inside the data. So I'll use the .hat function for that. And now you can see this is how our data frame looks like. Okay. So we have 5 different columns. We have the products. We have the categories of those products. We have the sales of those products, and in which month those sales were recorded. Now, this is a typical data of a grocery store. So we have products like Lay's, Monaco, Coke, Munch. These are the typical items that we have specifically in India. Then we have the categories in which these products fall into. And if I just show you more than 5 entries, you can see we also have the data for different months. We have the data from February, March, April, and we also have for May. Okay. And so we have the sales data for each month. Okay. So for Lay's, we had the sales of 10,000 rupees for the month of February. So this is how our data looks like. Now consider there is a shop owner who owns this shop and he wants to solve some of the different tasks that we have. So we will take 5 different scenarios to solve those 5 tasks. And in each scenario, I'll show you the type of bar chart that you can use in that particular scenario. Okay. So hand in hand, we'll also learn when to use which type of bar chart. So I'll show you how you can plot vertical bar chart, horizontal bar chart, then the stacked bar chart on the horizontal axis, then the stacked bar chart on vertical axis, then we have the proportional stacked bar chart. So these are the 5 bar charts that I'll show you in this tutorial. Okay. So in the first scenario, we have to find out what are the sales of each product category that we have in the store in the month of February. Okay. So if you see the data, we have different categories. So we have category of snacks, drinks, chocolates, and instant food. So these are the 4 categories that we have. Now for each category, I need to find what were the sales in the month of February. So for that, I have to start with some data preparation. So I just use the snippet in order to save the time, but I'll explain you the code. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to sum up the sales. So we have, let's say for the snacks category, we have different products in our store, and I need to sum all those products because they fall into the same category, and I need to find the sales for that particular category. Okay. So for that, first of all, what we do is we filter the data for the month of February. So I'll just take the month column and find out all the values where we have month equal to February and only fetch the details from that particular data set. Okay. Then once we have the data filtered, I'll also show you one by one how the data looks like. So once we have the filtered data with us, what we do is we group our values of the sales column and sum them over the category column. Okay. So it will group them and sum those values for each of the categories. So if I just print it and show you the results, you can see first we have filtered out for the month of February, the data set. Then we have summed those sales values for each of the categories. Okay. So there are 4 categories and we have our sales value in that. Now what I'll do is I'll take in the keys value for this particular data frame, which are these values: chocolates, drinks, and instant food and snacks. These are the keys, and these are the values which are stored against those keys. So this is just like in a dictionary that we have. Now I have stored those keys into the category variable, and those sales values are stored in the sales variable. Now I have the X and the Y values with us. Now we have to simply go on to the plotting part. All right. So in plotting, I first need to create the figure and the axis objects using the .subplots function. It will create the objects, and now I can use this particular figure to plot my results into. Okay, so this is the empty canvas that we got. Now I can do ax.bar. So you can also do plt.bar, but with ax.bar you can control on which axis you want to plot your results. Okay. So I can do ax.bar, bar means for the bar chart, and the x values that we have is the category. So on x-axis, we want to plot the category, and on the y-axis, which is the height of those bars, I want to provide the sales values. Okay. Now, if I just simply run this code, let's say, so this is our basic vertical bar chart that we have. So you have the x-axis with the categories where we have 4 categories, and the height represents the sales values. Now you can modify this a little bit. Let's say if I want to add the colors to my bar charts, for that what I can do is I can first define an array of 4 colors because I have 4 categories. So I'll be providing 4 colors to it for each of the bars. And so let me just provide one more color to it. So for drink, I would like to provide blue color, royal blue. And then when you plot a bar chart, you can do color equal to, you can provide this array. Okay, now you see how beautiful the plot looks like. So we have different colors to our plot. And so this is one of the type of changes that you can do in your bar chart. Then you have to do the basic formatting, like adding your title to the plot, adding your X labels, and similarly the Y labels. So you can do that. All right. So title, I would like to give it just the sales data for product category for the month of February. The X labels are the months that we have, and for the Y labels, we have the sales in rupees. Okay. Now if I just run this, you see we have the X labels, Y labels, and the title. Okay. Now let's come to the second scenario. So in this scenario, we have to see what are the sales of each product in the month of May. So now we have to find the sales. We have to plot the sales of each product instead of the categories for the month of May, which is the next to the April. Okay, so again, you have to do some data preparing. So in this, what I'll do is I have again filtered the data for the month of May, just like that I did for the month of February. Then once I have the filtered data, I don't need to group anything because we directly have the sales data against each product. Okay, and I can just fetch those values from my filtered data frame using this method. Okay, so once I have my X and Y values, so what I will do is I can just plot my results. I will again create my figure and axis objects, and I can do, okay, I have written opposite. Okay, what I can do now is I can again do a ax dot bar for bar chart. Then the X values now will be the products because I need to show the sales of products and not the categories. So I will do product here, and the Y axis would be my sales. All right, now let's just run this. So this is our plot, which is the vertical bar chart again. And now you see on the X axis, since we have very large amount of categories or very large amount of products that we need to show, it is a little bit cluttered. So there's a rule of thumb that if you have, let's say, more than 6, 7 or 8 categories, it is better to use the horizontal bar chart than for the vertical bar chart because it makes the plot a little bit confusing. All right. So if I go for the horizontal bar chart, you can see the chart looks very clear now. We have each of the products on the y-axis, and on the x-axis we have the sales data already. Okay, and now I can do the basic formatting on this plot. So I can again set the title. Okay, so I have added my X label, Y label, and the title. Remember, now X label would be the sales and Y label would be the products because they have been interchanged. Now, if I just run this, you can see we have our labels ready. Now, one more thing you can do whenever you plot such kind of plots like the horizontal bar chart, you can sort your data. So for that, what you can do is you can do sort values method, and then you can define by which column you need to sort your values. So I need to sort my values based on sales. So it could be in any order for now, and I'll do in place equal to true. That means it would be updated in the same data frame, and I can use that data frame to plot my bar chart. So now if you see, if I run this, it looks much better now because I can directly see which are the products that was sold most amount of times in the month of May, which is the Maggi, Coke, and Dairy Milk, and so on, and what were the least amount of products that was sold. Okay, so this is how you can use horizontal bar charts. Okay, now coming on to the third scenario. So in this scenario, we need to plot what are our monthly sales, and we need to plot it category wise. All right, so it is a little bit involving. You have to pay attention to it. So what we need to do is, let's say we have our plot area. All right, so we need to plot our monthly sales. All right, so on the x-axis we will have months, which we have 4 months, which is the February, March, April, and May. All right, so we have these 4 months on the x-axis, and on the y-axis we need to plot the sales. Okay, so here we will have the sales. Now what we need to do is we need to plot the data category wise. So what does that mean? Let's say for the first category, what we need to do is we need to plot the sales in the month of February, in the month of March, in the month of April, and similarly for May. Okay, whatever be the sales. Then for the second category, we have to plot it in the same plot. What was the sales in the February month, then March month, then April, and then for the May. And similarly, I have to do it for the other 2 categories as well. So you get the idea, right? So we have to plot the sales data for each categories for each month. Okay. So for that, what we need to do is how we will approach the problem. So first of all, let us first prepare our data set. So we need the data for the categories in each month. So for that, what I'll do, I'll group by based on two columns now, based on category and month together. And then I'll not sort the data, I'll keep it as it is. And then I'll sum the values of sales. So if I just print and show you, you can see the data. All right, so now after summing the sales, we have the sales data for category snacks in the month of February, drinks in the month of March, and so on. Okay. The next thing that I did is I fetched out the categories and the months, which are the unique categories that we have and the months that we have, so that I have those values with me. So I have 4 months and 4 categories of my products. Now the next thing, so I have my data with me. Let's come on to the plotting part. So I'll create my figure and axis objects again. Now, if you look at this histogram, what we will do is, in the first step, we'll plot the bar plot for the first category for each month. All right. So if I do that, let me just do ax.bar plot. I need to plot for my first category. So I need the x-axis. X-axis, we have the months. And on the y-axis, what I'll do is I'll take the categories column. And then I will take the first part of it. So categories first index is snacks. So I'll just say I want the snacks category. And I need to plot that data on a bar plot. Now if I just show you this, now you can see we don't have any sales data for that. And why is that so? Because on the y-axis we have taken snacks, and I don't want snacks to be plotted, but the sales data. So for that, I will use PF mode, and I will take the index where we have categories as snacks and all the months I will take. Okay. Now you see for snacks, I have the data. Now for the next data, I will plot the same thing in the same plot area. Okay. So for that, is to make things simple, I will just take a loop and I will run it for 4 categories. So I'll use length of whatever the categories that we have, and then I will just run this in every iteration. Now instead of using 0, I'll use I, and yeah, so I think that should work. So now if you see, we have the 4 categories, but the issue is they are all plotted on the same X positions. All right. But we need to shift them on the x-axis so that we can have something like this. Now for that, what we can do is, we can, instead of providing the x as the months, I need to define another variable, which is the x position, and I will give it a value of, so I'll create an array using np.arange, and I will provide it to be the length of months, because we have 4 months. So it will give you something like array like, which looks like this. So 0, 1, 2, and 3, because length of months is 4. Okay. So now instead of using this, I'll use this, and you see on the x-axis, we will have 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now since I have numbers, I can play with it and shift my position every iteration. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll shift it by 0.2 for every iteration. So if it's I equal to 1, x position for 0 will be 0.2. Then for third iteration, it would be 0.4 and 0.6, so on. So now you can see, if I just execute this, we have our plots shifted on the x-axis. But the issue is the width. The width of the plot is very large, so I need to reduce that. For that, let me define a variable, and I'll say width of 0.2, and I can pass it on in this argument, where I can say width should be equal to 0.2. Now if I run this, now you can see the width of my bar is reduced, and it looks way better now. So now you can see on the first part, we have the 4 categories for the month of February, then for the month of March, April, and May. The next thing that you need to do is you need to provide the labels, because you can't see which color represent what category. Okay. So I can provide here my label as whatever the category that I have chosen. Okay, so whatever categories I'm taking in the ith iteration, that would be my label value. And I need to add a legend so that it shows me the labels as the legends. Okay, so now if you see, you have the legends and you can see the colors for each of the categories. Now if you want to, let's say, preserve the color coding that you chosen here, like for the chocolates you have chosen brown color, you can do that here as well. You just again need to create your array of bar colors, and maybe I can just drop it here. And now if you see this, the order of my categories is different. So first is the snacks, and I have chosen purple color, or no, sorry, for drinks I have chosen royal blue, so it should be here. So let me keep it here, and I'll just copy this side. So for snacks, purple, drinks, chocolates, and instant food. Now I can provide my color argument here, and I can say the color of this particular bar chart in every iteration should be the ith index of my bar color. So in the first iteration, when we have snacks, it will take purple as my color for all the 4 bar plots that it will plot for each of the month. And now you can see the results. Okay, so that's how you can do the color coding as well. Now if you observe, on the x-axis you don't have the labels for your months, because we already shifted that by using the x position variable, and again I have to bring it back. So for that, what I'll do is I'll use ax dot xticks now. So xticks is nothing but the x values that are shown on the x-axis. And now what I'll do is I'll need to I need to define at what position I need to provide my names, and what names do I need to provide on those xticks. So since I already had this month array, I will provide that as my input. And since I already created x position, which is 0, 1, 2, and 3, it will be provided at those particular position. Okay, I think I need to change something here. So it's not xticks, it's set xticks. And now if I run this, now you can see we have our labels back. Okay, but they are not centered. Okay, so what I will do for that is, since it is provided that the position should be exposed, which is the 0, 1, 2, and 3, and I need to shift that to the center value. So what amount I will shift it to is, since the width of one bar is 0.2, I'll shift it by 0.2 plus half of this bar, which is 0.3. So I'll do that, and you can see our labels would be in the center. And yeah, so now our labels in the center. Then you can just do your standard formatting, like setting the title of the figure, then the label. Okay, so I have already typed that, and now you can see we have the x, y labels and the title. Okay, now coming to the fourth scenario. Now here we again need to plot what are our monthly sales category wise, but we have to use a stacked bar chart which is stacked vertically. I'll show you what it looks like. So I'll just first copy this whole code, and I'll try to change things in that code only. And so this is the code. The data would be the same, but what we need to do here is, if I just show you, so we have 4 categories. I need to plot the data for 4 categories. But instead of plotting them side by side, I need to plot them on top of each other. Something like this. Okay. So my drawing is poor, but bear with me. So these are the sales data for, let's say, drinks. Then for the instant food, we have these sales data, and so on. Okay. So you get the idea. We need to plot the bar plots one over the other. Okay. For that, what we need to add is, we need to add one argument, which is bottom equals bottom. Okay. So I'll define this bottom variable now. So bottom defines from which point my bar plot height should start. All right. So for the beginning, it should be 0. Okay. So I'll define a zeros array with the 4 values inside it for the 4 months. Then what I do is, I will update the bottom and add the height of my previous bar plot. So this is the height and this would be the height value. So I would just separate it out and store it in the variable height, and then I can again feed in the height value here. So this is the height, which is the y value that we have. And at every iteration, so for the first iteration, the bottom will be 0. Then for the next iteration, it will be 0 plus the previous height, which is the height of the previous bar plot or the first category, let's say for the second iteration, and so on. You can see the effect directly. So if I just plot it, you can see now for the second category, the bottom point is the height of the previous category. So that's how you can stack them vertically. But there is one more thing that you need to do is you don't need to shift them now. You just need to plot them on the same position. So for that, you can simply do is you can add months here instead of position, and you can remove whatever you did to change the x ticks, and you don't need the x position variable. Now if I plot this, you can see they are stacked on top of each other, but still you can say the width is very small. So because I changed that, I'll just remove that as well. I don't need to reduce the width, and let's just keep it by default whatever is the width. So that's how you can plot a stacked bar plot as well. Now there's one more thing that you can do is you can add a style to your plot. So for that, what you can do is you can use plot.style.use, and then you can use some predefined styles that you have. So let's say if I use ggplot, which is one of the style, and I need to define it before I define my objects for figure. And if I just use this style, you can see we have a gray background with the grids at the background. Now I'll provide the link to all the styles that you can have, and you can see here using the link the variety of styles that you can plot for your different type of plots. So these are the predefined styles that you can use. But if you don't want to use any style, you can just say I want to use the default style that we have. All right, and you can see the result. Okay. Now let's look at the final scenario that we need to plot. So we need to plot again the monthly sales for category wise that we did in the previous case, again using the stacked bar chart. So whenever I say stacked bar chart, it is vertically stacked bar chart. And now instead of plotting the absolute values, we need to plot the percentage values. Okay. And why do we need to do that sometimes is because let's say in this particular example, from March to April, the total number of sales for chocolates, which is in brown color, looks almost similar. But since the total sales in April has been increased, the percentage share of the chocolate should be reduced. And I can't see that using this particular plot. So I need to use percentage sales where the height of my bar plots will be normalized to 100. So for that, I can just copy this code directly and then I can paste it here. I don't need to change anything in my data preparation part. But while plotting my data, instead of using the height, I will use another variable which is the normalized height, and which would be the total, which would be the height of that category divided by the total height multiplied by 100. And then I'll use the height normalized for every other thing. Now, how do we define this total variable? So this is the total height. So this represents the height, total height in the month of February, which is the total sales that we did in the month of February, March, April and May. So we need to use the group by function for that. So I'll use this to sum my sales for month. And since I don't need to do it category wise, I'll just do it for the month. And I'll sum up my sales for each month. Okay. I can also print the total if you would like to see. So now you see the total is for February month, we have sales of 64,000, which is the height of this particular bar that you can see. And similarly for other months. Now if you see the height of my bar plot is normalized, and I can see from March to April, the percentage share of chocolate is reduced. I can clearly see that. Okay. So that's the situation where you can use the percentage sales. And there's one more thing that you can do is to add the labels of what percentage share that particular category holds. For that, what I can do is I can define ax.bar label, and now I need to provide the container for my bar chart. So this particular method, when I am plotting the bar chart, it returns me the bar container. Okay, and I can define this in this particular variable, and I can save this and provide this in this particular argument, and I can do label type. I can do it center so that it is in the center of my bars. And let me just print this first. So now you can see we have the numbers for the percentages with us, but we still have very large number of decimal places after the decimal. So I can reduce it to 2. I can do that by FMT, which is the formatting argument. I can do percentage 0.2f. So it will show that I only need the 2 decimal values after my decimal point. Okay. And now you can see we have the decimal numbers, and which are the percentages of those categories in the whole total number of sales that they hold. Okay. That was our all the scenarios that we wanted to plot. Now the last thing that we need to do is we need to make a final dashboard. So dashboard is nothing but a page where you place all your plots that are necessary for visualization, and we'll try to do that here using matplotlib. So I'll use 2 plots. So for that, I'll create my figure and axis objects, but say as I need 2 plots, I would be using 2 axes, and I can do plot.subplots, and then I can define I need to have 1 row and 2 columns, and I can also define my figure size to be 10,5. Let me just see. Okay, so this would how my dashboard would look like. Maybe I can increase the width of it. Okay, it looks good now. I can also provide the title to my figure. Now, if you would like to know how these figure and axis objects work, you can just watch my previous part. I have explained everything in that particular video, and you'll understand how everything works. All right, so for the figure, I'll just place a title, which is my dashboard. I would say font weight to be bold, and I will also increase the size to be, let's say, 16. Now if you see, we have our title here. Now the rest is simple. I will do 2 plots since I have 2 axes, and I can do one for my this plot. So I'll just copy everything right now, and I can just paste it here. So all this code is not necessary, but since we have already defined it, but I'm placing it here again just to be sure enough. And here we have created our figure and axis. We don't need to do that. I'll just provide AX2 here, which is the second axis area, which is on the right hand side. So it will plot everything in that particular region. And if I just show you, you will see in the second area we have our plot ready. It's not ready because of this. Okay. Now if I just show you, you can see the result is there in my second plot area. Now in the first plot area, I would like to add, let's say, this plot, which is the horizontal bar chart. I'll just copy this again, and I will paste it under this subplot 1. And again, I don't need this command here because I already have created my axis, and I will provide EX1 everywhere, and it should plot everything in my first plot area. So that's it. That's how our dashboard looks. Now I can just simply save my dashboard by doing fig.savefigure. So fig is the object that we have created, and savefig is the method, and I can save it under the name my dashboard and just run it. Now you can see it would be saved here, and this is saved, and if I just open it, this is how my dashboard looks like. All right. Okay, so since I think there was a lot of information to digest in this particular tutorial, so I would like to give you a short overview to have that clarification. So we had in total 5 scenarios. In the first scenario, we had simplest case where we need to plot limited number of categories. So we used vertical bar plot. Then we saw how we can change the color of these bars. Then we saw how we can add the X label, Y label and the title to our plot. This we did for all other scenarios as well. Then in the next scenario, which is the second scenario, I increased the number of categories to be plotted. So we had to switch from vertical bar plot to horizontal bar plot. And since we were plotting horizontal bar plot, we also considered the sorting the values in ascending or descending order to have that better visualization of our sales data. Then in the third scenario, we need to plot the monthly sales data, but we need to do that along with showing the category wise sales data. So we choose to plot our bar plots and stack them horizontally. So we considered doing a loop where in each loop we plotted each category for all the months, and then we changed the position where the next plot would be plotted, and like this we plotted all the 4 categories stacked horizontally next to each other. Then again at the end we have to use the xticks method to change my position values to the months values that I need to show. Okay, in the fourth scenario, I used the same data and showed you how we can plot the same data using the stacked bar chart. So in this, you plot the bars and you stack them vertically instead of horizontally. Now there is an additional advantage using this plot is you can see also the total sales value for each of the months since the plots are stacked vertically. And to stack them, you use the bottom argument where you define the bottom point of the next bar that you are plotting. And this way you did that. Then in the final scenario, instead of plotting the absolute sales value, we plotted the normalized values. That is, we plotted the percentage values of my category wise sales. And with this plot, I can see the change in percentage share of each of the categories, which I could not see in the previous plot because the total value is also varying month by month. Alright, so this is all the different scenarios that we considered. Then at the end, once we had different plots with us, we just created a small dashboard for us where we placed 2 of the plots that you can choose whatever plots you want to select. And then we placed them using the figure and axis objects that we created explicitly right here. Alright, and at the end, we just save the figure. That's it for today. If you made it till here, I hope you have learned something today. If you found the video helpful, please hit that like button and do subscribe this channel for more such videos. Thank you for watching.